Hello and welcome to The Rare Agent, where we pull back the curtain on all things real estate. We're your hosts, Christina, Mary Jo, and Murray, offering a judgment-free space for collaboration over competition. On today's episode, our guest has a genuine interest in helping others achieve optimal results, which has driven the success of the Connexus group. From embracing new technologies to maintaining grassroots customer service principles, his commitment to excellence is unwavering. Please help us welcome the one and only Ravi Singh.
Yay!
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're very, very happy to finally get you on the podcast.
Yeah, you guys are doing amazing work. I was listening and watching the one with Tom on the way here. You know,
Amazing.
and I was just saying it's very nice to be held in the light of so many people that I respect inside the industry and outside the industry. So, you know, thank you to all three of you for giving me this opportunity.
Oh, thank
you for
joining us. Coming.
Yeah.
After being stuck in an elevator.
The day was interesting, and it's only 2:45 right now. So,
Just a typical day in the life of a realtor.
Yep, pretty much. Although
For
I would have
sure.
passed out.
You know what? We were stuck mainly on the 18th floor in the hallway. No steel toe boots, no helmet. So we were
In a building
getting
under
dirty,
construction.
you know, but the elevator part was probably the most exciting. And what was probably felt like half an hour was only maybe a minute or two.
Is it one of those elevators, though, that's on the outside of the building that's not completed?
Thankfully, no.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Then we would have had a problem. Then I might have had to reschedule, guys. But you know what?
I've been in one of
Check our
those, and I'm
underwear.
like, I can't. I just don't like it.
I've never been in one.
Me
Oh, I
neither.
have.
Yeah. I have, well, when the Thompson was getting done, they took us up in like, I guess a shell just to show us the rooftop.
Yeah.
Because at that time, right, like that was, I guess, the tallest building in the King West neighborhood. And they wanted us to see what has now become, I guess, Lavelle.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, it's pretty marquee postcard view of the city. Right. And because you have everything high density on the other side of Spadina, you kind of get that skyline view. That was probably my closest. Right. Any other PDI, usually they have the elevator stuff, which is at least a good start. Right.
Exactly.
Your team, for people who don't know, focuses a lot on pre-construction.
You know what? It's interesting. We do probably about 20% of our business is pre-construction. And I think where we're kind of unique, not necessarily unique, but where we have a specialization is we focus on people once they've moved through the cycle of buying their first home and buying their next home and their forever home. We really try to unlock a conversation about, well, you know, how can we create a different financial future for you in the opportunity that exists through the density in Toronto, right? So, you know, historically, we've seen anywhere from 7 to double-digit percentage appreciation year over year. We are not speculative. We don't tell people to buy and sell. We tell people to buy
Yeah.
and then buy again and then buy again.
So
And if you
portfolios.
can get to 10 doors in 10 or 15 or 20 years, you're changing the entire financial trajectory of your entire, you know, bloodline, right? And we're very committed to the idea of what we call getting rich slow. Right? Like there's a huge opportunity, and not even just necessarily the pre-construction condo development opportunity in Toronto, but even just opening your eyes to all the different ways that you can generate income with two words: real estate. Right? And income, as you guys all know, is it's cash flow, but it's also equity. Right? So why not create a future for the people that you love and care about, where they're wrapped in this security and this freedom that can really arrive through leverage and wealth, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Selling the dream.
well, it's a very rewarding thing to know that people, like for example, I helped place tenants yesterday for a client of mine. She's single. She's a woman. She's 30, maybe 32, 33 right now. She has 4 condos. And you know what? She's been close to my family since she was 6. She's like, Rav, you know, I always saw like you guys just kind of started and then moved along. Like, I think the day she got her first time job, she had been putting money into her RSPs, was like, okay, what do I buy? And you know what? Over the last few years, she's taken more risks than some. And she said, you know, when me and so-and-so, the guy, when we get married, we'll probably try and hold on to one, but sell 2 and buy this. And her budget is so different than the average first-time couple who really are starting in a shoebox or starting co-buying or starting somewhere if they don't have the bank mom and dad.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's what we're dealing with now.
Yeah.
But where did you start? When did this all begin for Ravi?
Yeah. So, I mean, Murray and I have the distinct honor of having a colorful vintage and nightlife, as many real estate agents do, right?
Absolutely.
And it's interesting. So my origin story is kind of fun to tell. But when I was young, my dad, he worked in commercial lending in the real estate portfolio for sort of high loan volume construction real estate for Scotiabank. And I remember I was 9, and he took us to this really fancy restaurant. I was 9 years old, and it was the first time I saw butter on a with a candle lit under it. Right, we're eating. It's called Devonsley Place, and he tells me and my sister and says, "I've taken a job at United Lands." So he left the bank because his company, his one of the companies that he lent to, Green Park, Mattamy, everybody, but one of them in particular said, "Listen, here's a blank offer. We need you with us." Now, this was 1989.
Oh, when the market just tanked.
So we move to a beautiful house in Mississauga, and these guys own everything. Everything. Britannia, Dairy Road. Have you ever been to Heartland in Mississauga, like Huron, Ontario, and Eglinton? They owned everything. Them and a guy named Iggy Kanev. And then the market crashed. So it's funny because there's all these silver-haired old realtors who'll be like, "Oh, you guys don't know what it was like in the 90s. I know, right? We went, my dad spent the next 7 years restructuring, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul and keep this company above ground, right? He would drive me around to sites on Saturday and Sunday morning, be like, "See this? Hayes McCallie wants to build a school here. And she's taking back this for the farm, for the park. And this, now we're servicing this land." And,
You got the full infrastructure.
like, this was dinner conversation,
Yeah.
right? This was like constantly in my home, right? And I remember I used to clean the pool for the Welton family sometimes on the weekends. They had this incredible house with ivy on the side. It looked like a castle on Mississauga Road, right close to where Don Cherry lived. But this was my adolescence. And I realized with raising kids now how much, right? The kids are kind of absorbing. So then in my 20s, I started, I went to university and I started throwing parties. And that was like the heyday of Toronto nightlife. Like, it was like a great time. Richmond Street was like a zoo, and it started at Money, and then you had Joker and
Oh my God, Joker.
I worked at all those places.
Republic. Well, I know Murray from Republic,
yes,
right?
that's right.
So me and my partner Kendall, we used to have
Kendall, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So Kendall, he's got a mortgage company now,
Yeah.
but we had this company called Brighter Days. We used to throw parties, and we
Brighter
had this club
Days,
called
yes.
Pearl Lounge, Joker on Sundays, and It on Saturdays, and
Remember when I used to go dance at
of
Joker?
course, I remember Murray. Listen, these are entrenched memories,
These are the
right?
glory
I was
days.
And
17.
me and all of them, right? So at this point, right, 24, 25, throwing parties, making pretty good money throwing parties too. Graduate university, and I'm like, okay, I need to get a job, like a real job, right? So I start working at IBM. I hated that. Like, I cannot tell.
Doing what? Like,
So I was in
sales or
I was
something?
in business development,
Yeah.
which is artificial word for dialing for dollars, right? And my patch was Atlantic City and New Jersey and Philadelphia. So I would call on behalf of IBM to pitch solutions to these businesses. And I just remember feeling like there was no purpose to what I was doing, right? Like, there was no real fulfilling experience. I did get some good sales training, and they give you the books and the training, et cetera, et cetera. But I really felt no sort of enduring quality to the work I was doing. And at the same time, I was getting very sick. And, when you have health challenges, I think what you realize is you want to make the days matter. You value impact. You value the idea
Yes.
of, at the end of the day, I can put my head on my pillow and say someone is better because of the work I did.
Yeah.
And making the most of your time.
And make the most of your time, right? Just make sure that not just from a, from a financial position or from a position of personal fulfillment, but from a position of service, you're doing something important. And the girl I was dating at the time, she was working at Colliers International and commercial brokerage in Toronto. And she said, Rav, maybe you should try your hand at real estate. I had no idea about much of anything when it came to real estate. Like all of us when we get started, right? But at that
18.
time, I was 25, right? And, I was like, okay, let's figure this out. I didn't even know there was a cooperating commission, right? I was like, wait, buyer representatives get incented to bring the buyer to, like, I didn't know anything, right? And I started and I fell in love, right? It was like this.
Like right away?
Like right away.
Yeah.
Like it was like this was what I was meant to do.
Did you start in commercial?
No, residential. I
okay.
really did not want to get into commercial. I found that, the whole idea of someone's story affecting change with regards to, a baby, a promotion, a divorce, a relocation, this mattered to me. And now wealth creation as well. And, funny stories. So we had a club called District. All right. District was where we were on Friday nights. And at this time, like Ravi is sick. Okay. Ravi's like 108 pounds. And the owner of District, the manager, his name was Sam, his sister had the same debilitating disease I had, which was colitis. So he used to give me the punch code to the bathroom that was in the office. Right. But here I am. There's a sofa in District and I'm hunched over in the bathroom and I'm finishing my phase 3. And up wanders on Al, if you're listening to this, you were number 1. You were officially number 1. He rolls up, sits next to me in drunk conversation. So Rav, like I heard you left IBM and what are you doing with your life? And da-da-da-da-da. Well, Al, I'm getting my real estate license.
Like Al Sinclair?
This is Al McLeod. So this is a client of mine.
Okay.
And Al says to me, oh, well, when do you finish? I'm like, well, I got my last exam tomorrow. And he says, oh, well, when can you show me some homes?
Oh, that's awesome.
And I said, well, when do you want to go? Right? And we bought an assignment at 169 John and Queen.
Oh, wow.
Literally the day after I got licensed.
That's
The
awesome.
listing agent was Robin J. Pope. I don't know if you guys know
Yes.
Robin Pope.
Yeah,
Robin.
Robin Pope.
And Robin, like, he clearly knew I knew nothing, right? And I tried. Like, I was like, so, like, Robin,
And an
like,
assignment for your first deal.
assignment.
That's
The first it was
serious.
assignment, right? You know nothing, right? So
Most agents who've been in the business for a while don't know how to do an
assignment.
well,
Yeah.
the condo that we just did the PDI at where I got stuck was an assignment too, right? So it's
But now
interesting.
it's a little bit, the lawyers are involved, whatever. But back then, yeah.
Well, you know what? This was a Brad Lamb assignment, and Robin was the listing agent. And it was all builder forms. And at that time, do you guys know that lawyer on College Street, Fish Antoinette? That's like an old name, Joseph Fish. He did the assignment for us.
Joe Fish.
No.
Yeah, Joe Fish.
Yeah.
What a name.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
fish.
Yeah.
Joe Fish.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember that was my very, very, very first deal. And that first year, like things really kind of fell into my lap a little bit until that March of 2008, my dad passed away and I had a mutual release and I had a listing expire. And,
the reality of real estate sets
do you
in.
guys remember September 08? It was a
Yeah.
rough market.
The last 4 months were hell.
Yeah, it just lasted for about 3-4 months, right?
Yeah.
But if you weren't navigating the pricing conversations right, it didn't sell itself.
No, that was the .com era, right?
That was the .com.
That was
era.
a blur. I was pregnant that year.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh no, I had my son before, but that I didn't get a paycheck for 9 months in that span. That's the first time I ever went through that.
Yeah, and when you're newly licensed or when you're new in the business, sometimes you don't plan for CRA properly, plan for receivables. Like that, I did a deal for a client. You might even know Mike Fish.
My fish. Yeah.
Yeah, so Fish, I had sold his house and, the deal ended up unwrapping and, I had already spent the money because, you just kind of are thinking, well, this is easy peasy.
It's a done deal.
But as you go through the harder knocks, and I'm grateful that the market is a little harder right now, you build. You build the
Yes.
critical skills that allow you to do a better job,
Yeah.
right?
Back to we were just talking about this, back to basics. And I think we need it. We all need it, because going through a market like we've been through, you know, everything is a little bit easier and people get sloppy,
Exactly.
right?
It's all those challenging deals that you actually really hone those skills that you need. And then you just kind of build up a repertoire, right? Over time, you have these skills that you didn't even know you accomplished, right?
2023 is going to be a year that will be remembered as a weeding out process. And nothing wrong with a hyperseller's market except the symptoms of a hyperseller's market.
Yeah.
Like some people really just had an easy opportunity to capitalize on a market where things were moving. 125,000 ends versus 77,000 ends. There's a big difference. Now I like this market. This is a pros market.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and people have the opportunity to actually take a minute, you know, buy something that they actually want versus,
Yes.
you know, something that they're forced into.
And you're really problem solving for people. You're looking at the whole picture. You're looking at what is necessary, what's going to be beneficial in the long run, what works today. We can't even predict what's going to happen, really, right? So we have to kind of just give them what we can work with at this point. But it's a dance. It's like, okay, this didn't work exactly the way we wanted it to, so we had to try something else. It's kind of good.
And even from a listing agent perspective, like you want to be able to market a home.
Exactly.
You don't want to say coming soon and you get 3 bully offers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, finally, for the first time, if we have a sign on the lawn, we can actually talk to people. Like before, we never had time.
Yeah.
Like it would be gone before you could do it. I am curious, for obvious reasons, how you navigate real estate going through your own personal journey that you went through.
You know what? Thankfully, when you talk about my personal journey, it's one that has had a lot of grace and a lot of triumph and a lot of great supporting actors. Whenever I don't know if this is just my own sort of defense mechanism, but I'm a very glass half full, abundant, optimistic person.
You can see that.
I don't believe you get anything by looking at problems. I believe you can find everything you need if you search for solutions.
Exactly.
And, you know, the day that I got diagnosed with cancer, I came home and put on my shoes, and Anne's just like, my wife, she's like, where are you going? I'm like, well, I have to go to work. And she just didn't seem to understand that, you know, I think a lot of people are happy to play in the victim space. I don't think it serves any purpose. If you need to go hide under the covers for half an hour, do it. And then guess what? Life's a lot harder for a lot more people out there than you.
Well, and life goes on.
Well, it's interesting. I think that's a mindset that's very common amongst people who have achieved a lot in their lives. I think most people who are on that level don't deal with the victim mindset. You always have a choice.
Well, if you take that mindset, you're not going to go very far.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you know, like Mary Jo, like you're very inspiring to me. Like I've seen you, you know, step into your own story with strength and with maturity and with grace, and you know, here you are dealing with your own personal challenges, and as someone on the outside, just knowing you at a casual level, you know, you inspire people. And I feel like you don't have to look hard to find people who are rolling up their sleeves.
Or people who have maybe even a more difficult situation than you do. It's really hard to
100%.
feel sorry for yourself when you see what's going on in the world.
Yeah, and I think COVID really highlighted that for everybody, because you think you have it bad. Believe me, there's always somebody who's going through significantly
harder.
worse.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in complaining. Right? I really think I look at things from a very logical, objective position as much as I can. Don't get me wrong, like you know, I'm a lunatic sometimes too, right? But
We all are.
the reality is, like, what are you doing about it, right? And you know, I've had some health challenges, but nothing that hasn't been able to be addressed through, you know, modern medicine, through nutrition, through water, through sleep. You know, there's things that I've learned about my own mortality, I've learned that I've been humbled through some very sort of challenging circumstances. And I realized, look, you open your eyes, you have limited time. So if you have limited time, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, I agree to that 100%.
So what are some of the routines or just things that you have in place that support that mindset?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I have assembled an incredible team of talented people. And my job right now is centered around, I'd say, 2 real arms to my professional work. One is servicing my clients. One is being a servant leader to the members of my team. And I realized that if you can create a value story to the marketplace where the people around you are even more competent, better, capable, somehow you allow yourself to delegate with understanding that you're giving people something, meaning you're not taking yourself away from the transaction. You're giving more people to your clients. You're giving more talent to your clients. You learn how to be really effective.
It sounds like you found a really good way to be humble and to uplift those around you and not to let your ego run the show. That's kind of what we were talking about as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think an empowering leader really needs to understand that it's not their story.
Exactly.
You're not Luke Skywalker. You're Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Give me another one. You're not Michael Jordan. You're Phil Jackson, right?
But being a leader is not easy. I mean, we all know
it's a balance.
Yeah, trying to manage a team is hard.
There's another thing that's really interesting about this business. Generally speaking, it attracts people who, would like to be on the podcast, people who would like to have their picture on the Instagram, people who would like to, have their trophy from the company or whatever. It's an entrepreneurial sales role where, you're getting these alphas. So it's not really good to take those alpha realtors and put them in a beta role.
Exactly.
And equally so, it's not really good to, find people who are not capable of lighting up that space and asking them to sell real estate. Like I can tell you, all 3 of you people, I would feel very comfortable with you in a listing presentation or servicing a client or writing an offer or negotiating a deal. And there's other people. Have you ever met someone who gets their real estate license and they're just not going to make it?
Yeah,
Lots of people.
Well, there's actually people who are on the other side of the table with us that you're like, I've ended up doing.
Sometimes you're like, how did you make it?
Well, how many times have you ended up doing their job?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're actually like, one of us is going to get sued if I don't step in here.
But how do you define that je ne sais quoi, right? What is that fiber that makes someone a great realtor?
I honestly don't think that it's something that's taught. I think it's something that's innate.
Yeah.
And there's different types of realtors. There are realtors that are a lot more, task focused or more detail oriented. There are some that are a lot more personality, right? The ID,
Yes.
right? Like that kind of personality. But the common thread is competence, mind, like discipline. What else? Strength and character, I think, and I believe that if you have integrity, then your business will grow organically versus if you're constantly having to regenerate business because you're screwing people over, right?
Yeah. That comes out pretty quickly too.
Very quickly,
Like, you can
especially
tell.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Right?
So at the brokerage I work at, they invited a woman in to talk. Her name's Susie Cummings. All right. And she's like an OG, like real estate coach. It's called Nature Real Estate. Very sort of like,
Nature real estate?
nature of real estate. Very hippie, right? Like she used to take like a small group of realtors to go on these massive excursions.
Oh, wow.
And like in like the desert and all this, and she can't get insured for it anymore. So she started doing courses, right? But she came up with something that really hit me that day. And, sometimes you have to hear the right story from the right person at the right time.
Yes.
So she said that there's this thing called alchemy of connection.
Oh.
And alchemy is an elixir, right? It's like a potion, right? And the alchemy of connection allows you to create extreme real estate growth. And she said those 3 things. Number 1, competency. You have to understand the profession. You have to know how to negotiate. You have to know how to write a deal, etc. Number 2, cognitive empathy. And she said, there's people who are sympathetic. There's people who are empaths. You don't need to be an empath. You need cognitive empathy. And then number 3, she said, curiosity. When I'm talking to the 3 of you and I'm learning about your story, or I'm listening, or we're sharing and collaborating on this talk, there's an actual keen interest in what's happening and that moment. And it's not something you can teach.
It's not.
It's something that either you care or it's irrelevant to you.
And while you're speaking about that, what it brings to my mind is it triggers your intuition, right? So as we're connecting and talking, my intuition is telling me the answer. So if that goes with your clients, right? When you're not just listening to their words, you're feeling what they're going through, you're understanding the bigger picture, and your intuition kicks in. But some people don't have that, right? So that ability is something that they're just not connected to it. They have it. I shouldn't say they don't have, they're just not connected to it.
Yeah.
So that is a big thing. There's so much that we do intuitively that we're just not even aware of.
100%.
Yeah.
And there's this idea, like Rich talks about it, Jamie Purvis talks about it. They say this thing called be, do, have, right? Many people will say, well, when I have more money, then I'll give to charity.
Yeah.
Or they say, when I have more time, then I'm going to read more. Or when I have more time, I'll work out more. Those people never do it.
No, nobody knows how to just be now. This is your time.
Yeah.
If you want to do those things, then start doing them.
And how I think it rolls into our world as realtors is, look, there are so many people who are just not in action. I have said I should start a podcast. You know when I said that? In 2020. It's 2024, right? Taking action is different than shoulding. Don't should.
Yeah.
No one should. You know what I mean?
No one should.
No one should.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's also recognizing what you really want, right? So when you can identify what you really want, then you know that, this is my intention. So what are the steps in between that? But you have to have that energy towards it. Otherwise, you're just not going to do it.
It'll keep coming back, though. I think if you genuinely have a desire to do something, you will do it.
Yeah.
And when the time is right, you'll know.
I'll be honest. When I look at my days, I don't want to embarrass myself here, but I try and wrap up my days with my children's school schedule. And I value the time that I have with them at such a high level that not doing the extra work, still doing what needs to be done, clearing my inbox, doing the proactive things, and then knowing that I get to take them to kickboxing or that I get to,
That's amazing.
hang
That's
out
not
and make
embarrassing.
dinner with them. That is my priority right now. And there's
Exactly.
a lot of big things on my goals list and a lot of things I want to do, but I'm patient with myself.
Yeah. That's the
And
other
you're
thing.
not guilting yourself
No.
because that's what's going to take away from the energy.
I will plan time to do certain things that are very exciting to me and that I know help to create visibility and opportunity. But I'm okay with saying that's a Q3 task.
Well, I think you have to know your limits. I mean, coming from a perspective of your mindset, good health, physically and mentally, because we all know what burnout is.
And that's the challenge for most realtors, I think, right?
Yeah.
You just nailed it. We are alpha, yes, but we also have to know when to balance it out, right?
Yeah.
We can't always be in that. You will eventually burn out.
Well, and
can't
what are the
always be
things that
there.
make you happy? Because it can't be just about money.
No, you have to give
Right.
and fill yourself up.
Yeah. And that's back to the community stuff. Like it's
And
one
spending time with your kids.
Yeah.
That's your priority. And they're only going to be this age now. Eventually they're going to be 15 like my daughter.
Yeah.
And you don't have that
how
time
many of us
again.
have experienced loss though?
Absolutely.
Right. I think we've all experienced that in the last 5 years. Somebody's experienced,
Mm-hmm.
if that doesn't jolt you to reality of okay,
Exactly.
time is limited.
Absolutely.
Not to say that you have to, go out and do everything and be crazy, but
No, but it's
be
finding
aware.
that balance, right?
And being
so It's
aware.
like not being extreme this way or just not doing anything at all, but
And stop-
being okay
stop
with what
procrastinating.
is. Yeah.
right? Like I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I'll do that in a year. Like if it's important, don't wait
Take
for
action.
that year.
Yeah.
But if you decide it's going to be in a year, be okay with that decision.
Yeah.
Yes.
But again, that comes down to prioritizing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think the other part of our business is I think when you really learn how to generate business and you've built a good sort of pipeline, the burnout thing is so near,
Yeah.
right? And I've learned how to not panic, and I've learned how to delegate, and I've learned how to streamline.
That's
And
key. Delegation.
when you streamline things,
Yes,
It is key.
MJ.
I know. I'm realizing that more than ever. I think we all are. Like we're learning not to be control freaks.
Yes.
there's two types of realtors. Well, sorry, three. There's the one that's doesn't have anything to do and is stressed out because they just can't seem to make the phone ring. Then there's the other type that is always busy. You know, it's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm busy. It's
Busy
like,
doing
oh, okay,
nothing.
busy doing. Oh my God, I'm
Busy
so
work.
busy, right?
Busy spinning.
And then
Busy
there's the
on
people
MLS.
I think that, you know, cut out the drama, right? Are not really concerned with the busy work and are doing things that are fulfilling and vital,
Exactly.
right? And I think that's where I'm trying to spend most of my time.
Yeah.
Right?
And how did you get to that place?
So I'll tell you.
I mean, I know you've been through a lot.
Yeah, but
you know.
from a business perspective, I would say having a good league of mentors and peers is extremely important.
What about kids?
Yeah, so, you know, talking about the health thing for a second, when I got diagnosed with cancer, my son was 7 months old.
Oh,
And, you know, I had this strange kind of like idea in the back of my head that should he be going through life without a father, you know, what that
that'll
meant.
sober you up right there.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I started writing this book, and, you know, my thought would be that one day I might publish it in donation, and, you know, people can, you buy a copy, it goes to Canadian Cancer Society or something like that. But I just realized that in those setbacks and in those moments where you start to really look at priorities, look at time, look, like I'm talking about really looking. I'm not saying like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, let me take out my 5-minute journal. Like I'm talking about like, this is like, should you die?
Yeah.
What did you do?
What's your legacy?
What's your legacy?
Yeah.
Right? And you never want to say, I did more open houses or I got
Yeah.
Diamond Award. All that is bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who did you impact and how did you change their life for in a positive way? If your epitaph says, you know, $1 Million Club, well, I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, I'm not saying this to sound grim or blue, but I'm just saying like when you have those real conversations with yourself, you really don't worry about the drama. You start to say, you know what? This is how I want my life to be. And I'm going to walk past all these landmines that are waiting for you at any time. And I'm going to go where I want to be.
Yeah.
Do you think the awareness of that is what helps you kind of navigate, you know, where you're at now, like your mindset and how, like just having the awareness of the bigger picture and what's really important?
Yeah. So I think mindset is one of those cliche words in our business.
More
But
so
it really
now.
is. It really is an extreme differentiator. Like, you know, when you have this, like every day I wake up, I feel like I won the lottery.
Yes. Right.
I'm not saying that like in like a fake way. Like I wake up and I'm like,
You just remind me of
You're
Pitbull.
alive. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the Pitbull song. Every day above ground is a I don't know, I forget.
something.
I totally butchered that, but
305.
yeah,
you know?
he has a line that's
Right?
exactly that. Like
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, I don't know the line, but I hear that, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
I was like, she was so excited. We went to his concert. She was so excited.
oh, he was so good. He's
Yeah.
honestly one of the best
no,
performers.
listen, he speaks at Tony Robbins
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that too,
because
right?
he's
Saw
got
him at
that
Tony
positive mentality, and you would not like. He's just a regular guy, but like he's just got that happy.
Yes. And
way
I
about
just
him.
remember, I actually, that's not what I really wanted to say. What I remember is, I remembered what I wanted to say. It's having the awareness of that led you to that place, you know, like that hard thing that happened led you to that place, which is why you have to be positive.
Yeah.
Because when you see the outcome of that horrible situation, it's really hard to like not see that in other things in life. Even when I'm stuck in traffic, I'm like, it's okay. This is stopping me from something that I'm not supposed to be at,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever it is.
That's exactly how I try and think about it. When something goes in a way you don't expect it to go, or it's not the way you wanted to go, I'm like, okay, there's a reason for this. And that's the perspective I try and take now, because I find it keeps you from going negative.
Exactly.
Right.
And I also
it's hard to go negative after you see that.
Yeah.
I think things that generally speaking people in Canada or Toronto get upset about really like it's a level of entitlement.
First world problems.
Oh my
First world
gosh!
problems.
My dry cleaner didn't finish my outfit on time. Give me a break.
The funniest thing for me is road rage. When I see people losing their minds,
I just smile and wave at them.
I'm like, really? Like, this is the worst part of your day, is that, you're stuck in traffic for an extra 5
with
minutes?
your Bluetooth headphones and your Sirius satellite.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic is entitlement, to be honest. It's like, that is, to me, the worst possible characteristic in a person, just feeling entitled. Nobody's entitled to anything. You either do what you got to do and make it happen, or you're not going to get it. That's just the way it is. But there's a whole, there's a lot of people out there that just think that just existing means that they deserve something.
Yeah.
Or that the world owes them something.
Well, I think we're talking about the whole Gen X.
No offense, but there's definitely a big
Maybe not Gen
percentage.
X, Gen Y.
Yeah.
When you talked about mindset earlier, and I mentioned mentors, like you guys know Ken, right? And one time he says to me just these 3 words, and it was so empowering. And I feel sometimes you need to surround yourself with people who will give you a little challenge.
Yeah.
He looks at me and he goes, Rav, why not you?
Yeah.
And in those 3 words, what I heard was like this sort of like push your shoulders back, man. Like, just go out there and do what you want to do. Someone's going to do it.
Exactly.
Why not you? Right?
That's great.
I
And
love
this
that.
empowering sort of idea of like, his other one is just be great, right? Like these little sort of isms around.
And they're so simple, but so
simple.
true.
And the whole idea of just like it's not hard. It's just work,
Yeah.
right? And that goes into every single possible discipline.
Absolutely. Everybody asks me, how do you do all the things that you do? I'm like, I just do it.
Yeah.
Like there's
You
no
don't think.
thinking about it. It's
You
just,
don't
I
think.
just do it.
Yeah, it's
Now-
a priority.
Yeah.
So you make time.
Yeah.
For it.
Now, without getting into like a dark, like conspiracy theory kind of world, like I do think a lot of people from a very young age are programmed,
Absolutely.
especially in Canada, to fall into the tax-paying, mortgage-taking, car loan, post-secondary loan world of, cogs in a system.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? And I'm okay with that. If comfort is what you seek and you're happy, that's awesome. But I do think, like many of us have kids here, like if we can just kind of plant the seed that whatever you want,
You can have.
Yes.
just figure out the puzzle.
Well, just this morning, I had a conversation with a good friend of mine who is kind of pacifying her child. And it was interesting because I didn't allow my child to do something and she did. And I said, well, I'm just curious, why did you decide to do that? And she says, well, she was so upset. I said, but do you think that in life that's how she's going to be treated? Like if she gets upset, she's just going to get whatever she wants.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. We're trying to people please.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just, you know what? I'm not doing my kid a favor if I'm just
But
raising
it's almost
them to
the
think.
easier way of like, that's why people put
Easier
their
in
kids in
this
front
moment.
of iPads. They're like, here, I'm too busy. Have
But
your
if,
iPad.
but if you
have
could just
your-
fast forward to see what you're actually setting yourself up for,
Yeah.
it's really not easier.
No.
Right?
Oh my
I don't need
goodness,
to
your
be
daughter's
liked.
gonna be
My
with
daughter
you.
does not need to like me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let her know this is why and this is what you're going to have. And it's your choice what you do with it, but these are the consequences.
You're also,
That's life.
You're not doing them any favors.
No,
By teaching them
absolutely.
to be weak and to not be able to fend for themselves and not be able to problem solve. Like that's what's
Exactly.
happening
Absolutely.
right now.
Or handle rejection.
Yes.
Being told no once in a while.
Exactly.
You
It's
know.
not the end of the world.
It's not.
And participation prizes and
Participation ribbons.
participation ribbons and
I try
everybody
to
wins.
embarrass them in public. Like not like overtly, but just like being myself. And they're like, Mom, stop. I'm like, why? Are you embarrassed of me? This is me. I don't this person doesn't seem to mind. Why are you so concerned?
Yeah.
But like teaching them just to be themselves, like doing goofy things in public and not worrying about if I look cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am cool because I'm not trying to be cool.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. You know? I very much agree with that.
Absolutely. That's like such a huge thing, teaching them to be themselves. But we can also learn from that.
Yeah.
We need to be ourselves. Remove the mask, which we were taught to put on in this world, especially this real estate world. I was 18 years old trying to sell houses. You know, I took the biggest mask and put it on. And I was like, okay, let's go.
Well,
right? And
we're told there's so many business strategies that were like, you have to door knock and you have to call so many people and you have to like, it's like, no, you have to do what works for you.
Yeah, if I'm
because
forcing
everybody does
myself
this business
to do
differently.
It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. I have a client who grew a very successful inbound marketing business.
Inbound?
Inbound. So basically like,
What's
search engine optimization and that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he said to me, he's like, Rav, I was able to 10x my business the year I hired 12 outbound sales reps.
Yeah.
And when I talk to like people in my business, they say, well, outbound actually generates more business, door knocking and open house and mass advertising and online ads, but it doesn't serve me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my business is centered around the people I know and the people they know. And my business is repeat, referral, and alliance. And I'd say that's about 90% of my business with social media and content kind of filling in the extras. It serves me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't have to, not everybody has to go from destination 1 to destination 2 in the same way. And sometimes you want to go to destination 6 or 18.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And that's good for you if that's what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
At this point, I refuse to do anything that's not aligned with who I am.
Yeah.
I just I won't do it. I actually physically don't even think I can do it. It's just like my whole body resists it.
I have gotten to the point where I'm trying to begin to sort of look at more material goals because like I find that you need to be hungry sometimes. And the way I qualify those material goals now is what does financial security look like? What does freedom of time look like? What does complete liberty look like? What does generational wealth look like? Because once you kind of build a little bit of passive income and you have predictable monthly income and, you sometimes lose the scaling idea. And I think I'm looking at 2024 and saying, okay, fine. You solve this problem. Great. You need new problems to solve.
Yeah.
And some of those have to be financial too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One thing I've learned, and I've watched your business with the Connexus group, because you guys are all about portfolios and wealth building. And I've been paying attention now to wills and how you now manage your portfolio through a will.
Estate, yeah.
Exactly. Because now you have to think about this. Like if you own a number of properties and you are thinking about building generational wealth, how are you passing that down to your family?
Ideally,
and how are you setting it up?
And ideally with a non-taxable event, right? At the time of the sort of wealth holder passing, you don't want to create taxable events where Justin Trudeau takes half your money.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what happens. We all deal with estates and that's exactly what happens. And you see all these family members freaking out because they don't understand. And then we have to try and explain that to them.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like up until, I don't come from a family who's wealthy. Yeah. So I didn't really understand any of that stuff probably until maybe like 5 years ago. Yeah. So you can imagine most people probably don't understand it.
They don't.
Yeah.
They really don't. And I've been making it a point now to study it because now we are building, portfolios and we're building portfolios for other people. So if we don't understand it for ourselves, how are we going to explain it to other people?
Yeah. Yeah, and corporations, and they're always changing the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So I heard 2024, 100% of capital gains will become taxable.
Yeah, I heard that.
And it's like, are you sure? Like, that just sounds so incredibly strange to me. But if that happens, how do you rejig? Like, everything's changing all the time.
It just feels like this government is trying to tax us to the point that it's like, do you even want to stay here?
It's almost like you guys don't really have any power at all. Like,
no.
Basically, they could do whatever they want.
Well, if you work, they're almost punishing you for working.
Yeah.
That's the mentality it feels like.
Exactly.
It's like the more you work, the better you do, the more we're going to take from you.
It just pushes us to think outside the box.
If you guys figure out where to go, please let me know. Because I don't know.
We were just talking about Mexico.
Yeah, Costa Rica.
Sorry, Christina.
That's okay. No, it's just more of like a 2024 outlook.
Yeah.
Like what would be one of your predictions for 2024?
Regarding the real estate industry?
Yeah.
So I do believe that we've overshot the interest rates. And I created a video just talking about the fact that once you take out the housing inflation, which is rent and mortgages, from the actual inflation numbers, we're at 2%. So I believe the Bank of Canada is actually going to pull back as early as May of 2024. I also believe that with the immigration policies that we're in, we will start to enter into a balanced seller's market sooner than anybody planned or anticipated. And the early adopters to that will take advantage of prices going up and rates going down sort of in line, right? I also think, 2023, I think is going on record as the slowest volume of sales since 1999. I believe we're going to see substantial increase next year.
Yeah.
This is not saying this from a, rosy lens. This is really objectively looking at the numbers. And then the other thing I think that's going to happen is before we get to that May, June threshold, I think there's a lot of people that are really at their wits' end.
Yeah.
And I think as realtors, we have to manage our energy because we are going to get calls. People are going to say, Rav, listen, we've taken out a second mortgage to pay for the first one. We refinanced 3 times and we went back to the bank and the appraisal came in low and we don't know how to pay this revolving credit and these credit card debts. I think, people who have had the house of cards, unfortunately, are in a position literally now where there's going to be a loss. So I think what we're going to see is more inventory first because of the desperation once the holidays are done. I think that's going to get absorbed within decent reason. And I think as soon as the rates come down, every single shark in the water is going to say, okay, now, and it'll be too late.
Yeah.
I think it'll be
that's
too
what we've
late.
been trying to tell all of our buyers. We're like, listen.
That's been the general consensus, right?
Yeah.
Everybody we've spoken to has said pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, we're in a buyer's market with no buyers.
I know.
Because all the buyers are waiting for the bottom. It's like, guys, you think you're going to time this? Like
it's human behavior,
Yeah.
right? It's like when everybody wants it, you want it.
Yeah.
And when it's actually time to go get it, nobody's doing
They should be
anything.
going against the
Yes.
grain right now, and they're
Like,
not
let's
listening.
go.
And this happened already. We've seen this over and over again. It's like, when are you guys going to learn?
Buyers, wake up.
I think if enough of us scream it enough,
Yeah.
they'll start. And it'll be like 1 or 2 will
Yeah.
pull through, and then like ants. It'll be like
then
1
we're
or 2, and then boom.
Yeah.
And then
But that's when we're
going
gonna
told you so.
Yeah, we're going to be right back to where we were. And it's like,
How many times do you have to bite your tongue from saying, I told you?
Yeah.
So if you could go back 5 years, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, I would give myself the advice of pay the CRA. I don't know if
Quarterly?
I don't know if anybody else needs to hear that advice.
I
know those brown envelopes they said, just don't even open them, right? But,
Oh, no, I
that would be one. And then the second
Guilty.
one would probably be centered around 15,000 steps a day and don't eat sugar.
Yes.
Oh, nice one.
don't
Yes.
eat sugar.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So speaking on dementia, I've lost some very close family members over the past couple of years. And the more they research the brain and the spike of sugar and how it just goes and like just spikes your blood sugar and spikes everything and then brings it back down and what that roller coaster looks like. They call dementia type 3 diabetes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's such a grimacing,
Dr. Hyman talks about this a lot. I've been watching that podcast.
such a grimacing tough thing. Since I've cut out sugar and doing 15,000 steps a day, like it really is a game changer. And it's really interesting. Like I had another medical thing happen this year in May, and like I got this tattoo on my arm of November 2nd, 2006, because that's when I had like really bad health and I had this life-changing operation. The reason I got it etched in my arm is because you need these
Yeah, you need the
permanent
reminder.
changes.
You need the reminder.
Yeah. Look,
Sometimes
look.
we forget
Yeah.
sometimes, right?
I got the same thing.
You need permanent changes, right? And like, I think both financial weakness and nutritional weakness are unfortunately the cards are stacked against us. So we really have to kind of
we have to educate
be aware
ourselves.
of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Read the labels, or don't even eat anything in a can.
what's the first thing they give you the first day of university? A credit card and a cell phone.
Yeah.
You know, you try and manage what your kids eat, and then they go to a birthday party and all hell breaks loose, and they're having lollipops on top of ice cream cones. You know,
what if they actually removed from the education system family studies?
Come on,
they removed gym and they removed family studies. Like these are things that, like, of all, no. I mean, in a lot of schools they took it out.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was. I mean, I don't know.
Sure?
Yeah. I mean, now it's back, but it was one of those things when they were cutting classes, they cut music, they cut gym, and they cut family studies.
Yeah.
So financial literacy out the door. Learning how to cook, not even a thing.
Crazy.
So here you are, you're raising a whole generation of kids who don't know how to communicate because they're on their phones all the time. They don't know how to open a bank account. They don't know anything about money. And they don't know how to boil water. Right? Yeah. Is that not? I find that scary.
Yeah.
But they know how to do get ready with me's on TikTok.
Exactly. And to take selfies, right? Like
my daughter and her best friend have the craziest face routine. When I was her age, I was like, I'm lucky if I even splashed water on my face. They're
ice
just
water.
like, they're in the bathroom. I'm like, what are you doing? Your skin is perfect. Why are you doing this?
But why do you think you need it at that age?
But it's just like teaching them that it's from the inside out, right?
Yeah.
Like teaching them early, because we were not taught that. Are you kidding me? I was having sugar and butter pita bread sandwiches, dipping my strawberries in white sugar. That's how we grew up.
We were the test generation for General Mills and all these companies.
Exactly. Cereal. Oh my God. I used to put sugar on top of my cornflakes.
Yeah.
What about corned beef hash, guys? Come on. Right? Like that.
Do you remember Count Chocula?
Oh, yeah.
The
Lucky Charms.
And then the milk would become chocolate milk because the dye.
Yes. And you thought it was brilliant.
What were we doing?
I know. I know.
Now we're all seeing the repercussions of that, though,
like,
right?
To be honest, knock on wood, I haven't had a flu or COVID or anything, and I don't even know how many years. And the only thing I could say is I work out at least minimum 4 times a week, and I eat pretty healthy, like more healthier than most people.
Yeah, you eat as close to earth type foods as possible. Like stay away from the processed shit if you can.
And you take supplements because our food is stripped of nutrients for the most part. Like you take some supplements, and that's all I do, and surround myself with good people and good energy.
Yep.
You know? Yeah.
That's so critical.
It is.
Rare roundup. You go, Christina.
So we're coming to the end.
Yes.
It's been so...
It's so easy. We could go on and on and on.
But we only have an hour. So the rare roundup. What is your favorite GTA neighborhood?
Ooh.
I'm interested in this.
I really like where I live, which is West Rouge.
Amazing. Yeah.
I just love it.
Yeah.
It is nice. I remember we actually ran into each other.
I almost
our
bought your
listing.
Homestager's house.
Yes, at on Beach Grove.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a great location.
That was a good
that was a hell of a house.
Yeah. I'm going to add one more, Trinity Bellwoods.
Oh, yes. Very good. Another good one. And on the road, what is your go-to meal?
Go-to meal on the road?
No sugar.
You know what? I don't really have a lot on the road, but I do have black coffee and a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Got it. And what would you say makes an agent rare?
An agent that is rare, I would say extreme ability to connect.
I like
Connexus.
I love that too.
Wait, where's the microphone? I want to drop it.
Is that how you guys came up with your name?
Connexus is connect, next, and nexus.
Oh, I like that.
And the whole idea is that, connecting people to the next part of their story is important to what we do as a team. And we understand that your home is not just a dwelling place, it's the nexus of your existence. It's where you share meals. It's where you raise families.
I love
it's
that.
where you entertain
now I really
people.
want to drop the mic.
Well, yeah, that's where that comes from.
That's
I
great.
love
I
that.
love it.
Well, thank you so much, Ravi, for being on the pod today.
Yeah, this
we
was
appreciate
fun,
it
guys.
so much. And everybody listening, don't forget to share, subscribe, like, and tell your friends about the Rare Agent podcast. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks,
for
guys.
now.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.